Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I only learned about Hügelkultur a couple of years ago when I was at a completely organic farm at a spa that had like a farm to table program. And I heard this like crazy German name and I was like, what the hell is that? I was interviewing the garden managers and this is such a fascinating niche gardening concept and you are an expert in it. So I'm so excited to kind of mine you today for all sorts of information.
Yay. I can't wait to get started.
So, how did you become the plant lady, flower lady that you are today?
I've always been interested in growing. I think it's probably absorbed from my family. My grandparents had a greenhouse and grew all different types of plants that they had collected that you couldn't grow outside. And my parents had a garden, and I grew up having to pull weeds before we could go to the pool. So I've always had an interest in plants and learning about them and what they could do. And it was as I got older and older, like really diving into the connectivity with nature, just seeing how beautiful and rich my life felt when I'm outside and hands in the dirt and seeing like all of the inspiration that Mother Nature offers to us. Just walking through the forest, it's incredible how rich and abundant and biodiverse like the plants and animals and macro fauna and flora are. It's just incredible. So that's what got me started on the path of cultivating and stewarding. And then as I delve deeper into food production, because that's I think we all eat, that's where our common tie is. We learn about the plants that we're eating. Then I learned more and more about the medicinal uses and historical uses, and then the cultivated uses now that we use for ritual and beauty and to mark milestones and all of the things that we can appreciate in our life. So, yeah.
That's so cool. And you're a full-time flower farmer now, right?
Right, yeah. We have quite a large spot that we just recently moved to. We've got 60 acres, and I'm not cultivating all of that. We've got some under cultivation, some forested, some riparian. It's a good mix of all the things. Yeah.
So, are you growing flowers that are getting sold to florists, or are you growing flowers for seed that then you're selling?
Both. Primarily, I grow for florists. So I grow and sell to a few different wholesalers. And then I also grow and sell to our own business. We have a retail flower shop in downtown Burlington. And we
Oh,
have
cool.
CSA. Yeah, we have CSA customers that come every Friday and pick up their weekly bouquet. We have a farm stand that we stock seasonally through April through October. So we grow quite a lot of different flowers throughout the year and try to get them into people's homes and lives however we can.
That's so beautiful. So, you're very interesting because you're a flower farmer whose entire farm is hugelkultur, right?
Right.
How did those two things intersect for you?
So as I was delving from food into flowers, I wanted to practice different growing techniques as one does. Farming, you're trying to find out what is going to be the best way to build soil, what is the best for the plants, and what's the most ergonomical for the human nature interaction, right? I'm a fairly petite person, and so ergonomically it's more comfortable to have a raised bed. I see from the example in nature all the time that woody debris is falling in the forest and providing this super lush understory and kind of nurse log for the next generation to grow. And I thought, how come I couldn't take that concept and apply it to my own garden? So as I started researching that concept more of using woody debris in the soil building process, I learned, oh, this is a technique. It's been used for hundreds of years. It's not anything that I invented. I've started to do that more and more and more, and just seen the benefits exponential. Like the yields are incredible. The water retention is so beneficial. The ergonomics of having like a topographical shape is beneficial. Having multi-sides to a growing space provides heat that you wouldn't get just with like a regular tilled conventional farming technique.
Okay, so I guess I have to ask you next, what the heck is hugelkultur? And what are these beds that you're talking about? Maybe
I'm
I should
getting
have
ahead
asked
of
that
myself.
first. But what is hugelkultur? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Where are the origins of it? You mentioned this is a long-standing practice. Give us the skinny on it.
Yeah, sure. It's a German technique. I pronounce it Hügelkultur.
Okay.
I don't speak German, so maybe you can correct me on that. But it's the process of taking woody debris and mounding it to make a garden. So hill culture is the foundation of the word. And you start by taking the biggest logs and branches and things first and piling up smaller and smaller diameter materials of whatever you got. I'm a big proponent of use what you have, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So if you have big boughs and branches, use those first. If you have sticks and twigs, use those first. Then you can layer on different things that you have from your yard and from your kitchen to promote active decomposition. So we're trying to build compost in place. We're going to take our greens and our browns and layer those to build compost. And then on the top of kind of the shape that you're building, I call it a rainbow shape, you'll put compost or dirt or some sort of planting substrate, whatever you're planting directly into, and then you can plant it. You could plant annuals, perennials, vegetables, trees, shrubs, grasses. You can plant whatever you want into it. You've just built all the compost in place so that the bed that you're growing into has nutrition, water storage, and fertility for many years to come, not just 1 year.
Right, because wood tree trunks say, I'm thinking the new house that we just bought has this enormous, like tree-sized tree trunk that's over the roof that we need to remove. And I'm like, gosh, what can I do with all of this wood? And the thought of making a Hügelkultur bed in my backyard is very appealing. But that wood takes a long time to break down. And I actually remember when I was visiting this organic farm and they were showing me their bed, they hadn't planted in it yet. They had constructed it and they were waiting for it to kind of break down. So what's the timeline from like setting it up to actually being able to plant into it?
Great question. First of all, yes, it does take a while to break down. It is woody debris and there's many, many, many layers in there, which is beneficial. We're not setting up for fertility for just 1 year. We're setting it up for many years to come. So you're kind of front loading the work and the effort into the bed, and then it doesn't need a lot of nutritional inputs after the fact because you've front loaded all of that. It's a bioavailable to the plants as they decompose. So it depends on how much stuff you pile up and how dense it is. The bigger the pile, the more nutrition banked, basically. Think of it as kind of a buffet. The more layers that you have, the more micronutrients will be available, and then the quicker it will decompose. It'll start generating heat and decompose more quickly. If you have just the logs, that's kind of a firewood pile, and it's not going to break down really quickly. But if you start to cover it with things that worms and beetles and mycorrhiza like to eat, then it's going to start breaking down a lot more quickly. One thing to consider is if you have logs available to you, this is a really great way to garden. If you don't have logs, I'm not suggesting you go to the forest, cut them down, and bring them to yours. So it's if you have what we would call a waste product, the forest doesn't generate waste, right? It's going to recycle and reuse all of that. And so if you have that, what humans would consider a waste product, treat it like the forest would and use it as one of the inputs into your garden. I suggest using the biggest stuff first because it's just more ergonomic. You're going to pile that first. So if you have a big tree that you're removing because it's a hazard, you're going to have to do something with it anyway. So you'd have to chip it or burn it or toss it or haul it someplace. Why not turn it into the foundation of the next growing bed and then you get more plants?
Yeah. So the beauty of the wood and the harder stuff is that it's going to continue deteriorating in the innards of this mound year after year. So instead of having to put compost on top every year or put fertilizer on top every year, it's almost growing its compost or fertilizer from the inside out because it's constantly going to be decomposing, right? That's kind of the theory.
Yeah, it's not constantly decomposing, but it will slowly decompose, right?
Right.
Eventually, the plants will have used up the nutrients that are there, but by then they have established and they're able to get their nutrients and from their roots and from the water, from, the air. But it provides long-term nutrients and resources for the plants that are growing in that space. You're going to plant the right plant for the right place, obviously, if it loves shade or sun, if it loves, protection versus wind exposure. But yeah, you're building the fertility into the bed with the carbon, the nitrogen, all of those nutrients that the plant mined as it grew. You're now putting that back and it's able to release those back to the plants over time. It's not just in 1 year. So you do need to have the layers that I was talking about built on top of the wood. If you were just to put a tomato seed on top of a big giant chunk of tree, it's not going to grow well. It needs to have some sort of growing medium. So you're going to need layers to start breaking down that woody debris. And then as that plant grows and those layers interact, they will provide the nutrients over time.
So if I was to set up a Hügelkultur in my backyard with the logs and sticks and greens for my, like the kitchen straps, if I look at the recipe and I make it and I have the compost, can I plant into it immediately, like this spring, or do I have to wait a year for it to kind of like congeal before I start planting?
Both and. You can build it as long as it takes. If you are, the name of my farm is SUOT Farm, small units of time. And so if you are like me and you can do nothing fast, we do it all slow, just a little bit by little bit, then it's going to take you a couple months, maybe a couple years to pile and accumulate all of the debris that you want to have
Yeah.
the size of garden that you want. If you are and have 15 friends and they all come over and you buy them some beer and you guys bang it out in a weekend, awesome. You can compile the components. As soon as you top dress it with the compost is when that decomposition really starts to kick in, but it will start settling, it will start decomposing, you'll see birds flitting in and out even just when there's twigs and branches. So both and. You can build it in a weekend or over a course of a season. And there will be some settling, there will be some, gravity pulls on us all. There will be some filling in of the gaps between logs and branches and things like that as you add your layers. Or you can do it over the course of many years. So no rush. But yes, once the final top dressing of compost is on, I would definitely plant quickly.
You can
Mother
plant
Nature
into it.
is incredible. Yeah, she's going to fill it in with whatever she has available to her. So weed seeds and whatever the
Right.
bird drops, whatever your cat is digging, the squirrels are planting things. So Mother Nature will fill it in unless you plant it. So as you can keep adding as many layers as you want over time, and then once it's ready to plant, there's that final, like the substrate is fine enough that you could plant seeds or starts into. Yeah, go ahead and plant with what you want to, and then it will fill up and take out this fill in the space, I guess.
So is there a recipe? I mean, you've mentioned obviously the base, the primary part of this is woody debris. So your logs or your branches and your sticks and your twigs, leaves, like the things you're going to find on your property. What are the other, you keep saying layers, what are the other elements of the other layers that we need to be thinking about in terms of like collecting and making sure we have on hand for the assembly of it?
Sure, I am happy to send a downloadable PDF for things that I recommend or like
Oh,
examples
great.
of
Okay.
things. Yeah, I can link those in the show notes or send an email after to your subscribers. There's so many different ingredients that you can include, and it depends on what you have available to you. So maybe you have cardboard boxes you've been saving. Take off the tape or the staples and you can layer those in. Those are biodegradable. Maybe you have newspaper or egg cartons or egg shells or coffee grounds. Maybe you have straw or leaves that you've raked up from the tree. Maybe you've got grass clippings or chicken bedding that you're cleaning out the chicken coop. Maybe you have other animals. You're tossing their compost and bedding into the brim. So whatever you have, maybe it's your deadhead and your dahlias and you've got all the garden cleanup that you're tossing in there. Maybe you have kitchen scraps. You just layer anything you have in there. I recommend doing green, brown, green, brown. That means freshly alive. So the stuff that was mostly growing most recently versus long dead. So ash from the wood stove is kind of be one of the browns, whereas grass clippings are going to be one of the greens. So just
Okay.
alternate those and you kind of make like an apartment complex for the decomposers to start breaking down. If it's all just green stuff, it's gonna smell really bad and be too high in nitrogen. It'll be kind of slimy. If it's all brown stuff, it's almost inert. It's not gonna break down and start activating because there's nothing to break down. It's all kind of long dead stuff. It's a firewood log and then some ash on top. That's not really a whole lot going on in there. Once you introduce the combination of the two is when the pile starts generating heat, microbes start working in there, the decomposers start doing their job, and then I don't have to. I'm creating the system. Instead of going through and tilling every year and making more work for myself, I'm creating a habitat for decomposers to do that job, and they do it amazingly well.
Yeah, it's like very similar to a compost pile.
You're building the compost in place. Instead
Right.
of taking all the compost over here, decomposing it, and then bringing it all back, save yourself a step. Just pile it all on one place and then plant it.
And then plant it. Oh, I garden in raised beds. So I have the raised beds that are, raised on all sides and then my growing media in the middle. So I'm only planting the top surface of the raised bed. So are you saying because this is a mound, like a rainbow shaped, a semicircle, that you can kind of plant 180 degrees of the mound? Like, could you have flowers or plants coming out of the sides and the top?
I absolutely do. And not to say that, whatever kind of raised bed you're growing in is going to be great. If it has walled sides that impede you from growing on that, that's totally
Yeah.
fine. You can still grow on the top. There's still the nutrition available to you. Since I don't have like any barriers on the side of my mounds, Just the soil is piled there and gravity holds it in place. Yes, I totally grow this lower growing stuff on the side and the taller growing stuff down the middle.
That's so
It
cool
does,
because then you're
it
getting
does
more square footage of
Right.
growing
Yeah,
space.
it is topographical, and so you do get more square footage. You also get different growing climates. So one side gets the sun first, and this side would be shaded. So I can grow more shade-loving or shade-tolerant plants on this side, where this warms sooner, so those plants can take the heat and dry out faster. These ones need a little bit, maybe they want cool roots, or they prefer the afternoon sun or something. So you can really play with different growing climates, microclimates, just within
Hmm.
one berm. And then this is for more advanced gardeners. You can start to think about how to maximize the growing space that you have, whether it's a flat surface or a three-dimensional shape, but you can plant things under the ground like bulbs, tubers, potatoes, garlic. Those would all count as growing under the ground. Then you can grow surface crops, strawberries, lettuces, ground covers, little small flowers, violas. And then you can also grow aerially. So just even in one garden bed, you have three different crops growing in one space. They're all taking up their own kind of area in that growing space. So the aerial crops could be whatever, tomatoes, cucumbers, dahlias, something like that.
Cool. So I can take the raised beds that I have and apply the Hugelkultur principles by putting the tree trunks in the bottom and layering it like that. Or I can actually build the bed like what you're talking about. How tall are your beds? How tall are, if I'm to build it to the ground up and do it your way, like a real Hugelkultur bed, which is like constructed from the ground up, how tall are we looking at?
Yeah, and both of them would be real, right? You can totally fill up a raised bed that you purchased or built with the decompostable materials, and you could just build it in place without sides, totally fine. They will do the exact same concept. It is really expensive to fill one of those containers with just pure soil.
It's
If
really
you're
expensive. Yeah.
buying soil, that's very expensive, and if you already have leaves falling off of a tree and you already have branches falling off of the tree, just load those in. You will see decomposition happening, so it will shrink. You'll need to keep adding over the years, but that's the
Hmm.
same with topsoil or compost or anything that you're filling the bed with anyway. Bear that in mind. If I like to fill the bulk of the shape where it is, with whether it's in a container or not, 3/4 full of all of my woody debris and leaves and branches and stuff first, and then just the top portion with the compost. And so for me, growing on a large and commercial scale, I go big. I try to get my piles as big as possible because I'm building for longevity. I'm not growing just for this current year. I need my business to be sustainable for many years to come, and I like to think about the generations that are going to come after me. I'm stewarding this land for only this little blip of time, right? There's so many people and generations that have come before. I get this chance to steward the earth, and then there will be hopefully a lot after. So I'm thinking about that as far as the long-term sustainability for others. How can I promote biodiversity in my community? How can I promote sustainability for my business so that my family can eat dinner? Anyway, to answer the question, long story long,
Yeah.
I try to build them as tall as possible. So I'm a petite person. I try to go like 4 or 5 feet high, whatever is like ergonomic for me to like throw on with my
Wow.
physical body or with the tractor. And then it decomposes. You'll see it visibly shrinking. Especially, I like to take either time lapse or progress photos just so I remember, oh yeah, that was last month. Holy smokes, a lot of time has passed in my mind, but not a lot of time. And so you'll see it physically shrinking. Over the years, it goes down, but even just as you're piling stuff on, settling happens, birds and snakes and critters
Rain.
are coming in and out, rain, gravity. It's going to compact while still providing tilth. There's still air pockets, water can trickle through, and that's the point of the berm, is to allow the roots a space for their roots to go, water the trickle and to pool without becoming stagnant.
And once you establish the bed, you're not turning the beds every year or moving the soil. You're letting the decomposers naturally do that.
Yeah, that's the point, is that I
Right.
don't need to go through and till. This is a no-till system. You lay the foundation of the soil. Just like in the forest, nobody's out there tilling it up and miracle
Hmm.
growing it and tilling it up and miracle growing it. You need all those additives if you've destroyed the compost layer. If
Yeah.
you don't ever destroy the compost layer and you keep adding to the compost layer, it's super rich and fertile. You've done the job. You don't need to go back and do more jobs.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about no-till and how you are a no-till grower and why you would encourage people, well, what it is and why you would encourage people to try adopting this practice?
Yeah, no till. Tilling is the process of like stirring up and mixing the soil. There is theory that like adding that fertility lower into the earth could be beneficial for the roots, or mixing up the soil kills off of the weed bed and the weed pressure on the top layer. Yes, in the short term, it does kill off those weed seeds because you're basically kind of putting them underneath. It just stirs up the seed bed from old weeds, and you destroy all of the layers that have been naturally built by time and the decomposers that live in there. So if you destroy the habitat of the decomposers and you're basically chopping them up, you're decreasing fertility over time. It might improve yields that year because of decreased weed pressure, but then over time you're decreasing your fertility and creating reliance on fossil fuels to keep tilling.
Right.
Keep having to keep going back with your tractor pass over pass, or then keep having to use herbicides or something to kill the weeds that aren't getting killed anymore. So it's not a sustainable practice, but it is a quick turnaround. And I think, conventional ag loves that quick turnaround time. Perishable products are, perishable. So they need to be sold quickly. So they need to have a quick turnaround. And if you are thinking of only yourself and only this year, then that might make financial sense. But it doesn't in the long term, and it doesn't for a community standpoint or for a sustainability standpoint. And I think as we learn more about the practices that we've implemented as a culture and as a global economy, we're seeing the detrimental effects of tilling. And so to combat that, I feel like looking to Mother Nature for the example. She's still sustaining us.
Yeah.
Despite us, she has so much to give and to offer that I think any amount of contribution that we can make in the positive trajectory is beneficial. To add more green spaces to our cities, to add more pollinator pockets, to add anything that we can to sequester carbon and decrease ozone is all going to make a difference. I think those small units of time, like the name of our farm, it really does make a difference over time. But that's what we need, is to make those choices consistently over time and not just
Consistently.
quick fix and only the thought of me. But how is this going to play out in community? How is this going to affect other people, other organisms, other
Yeah.
things that rely on this space to live as well?
Do you ever inoculate your beds with mycorrhizae to help with that breaking down, or do you let Mother Nature bring her own mycorrhizae and fungi to the party?
I wouldn't say that I inoculate it, but if you have access to mushrooms or mushroom products, yeah, great. There's a local company to us that grows mushrooms, and so they have they're kind of grown like on a pellet. It's like condensed wood fiber. And so the mycorrhizae have grown all throughout it, and then after they grow the mushrooms in it, it's spent. However, there is still a ton of nutritional value and, I don't know, tilth built into those blocks. And so we've definitely gone, when they have an excess of those and they say, hey, we need somebody to haul them away, we've definitely gone and collected those and added those to the bed. So there's still mycorrhizae in there. There's still all of the carbon and nitrogen that's stored in those woody fibers, and they'll break down over time. It's really fun to see all of the things, whether we've added the layer or inadvertently, from our home compost, thrown in potatoes are now growing. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that guy was in there. But it's fun to see how resilient nature is and how
Yeah,
productive it is. When you create the conditions, things want to live.
that's so real.
Yeah, I did want to say something about the size and scale of Hugelkultur. So just because we're growing on a large scale doesn't mean that this can't be scalable. So even if you have just a container that you're growing on your porch or on your window ledge, you can scale this. You wouldn't put an entire firewood log in there, but you could put branches that you've broken up, or you could put wood chips in the bottom. And it does the same concept. It's going to store the water. It's going to provide long-term fertility. Will provide bulk to the raised bed or container that you're using. So it can be scalable to whatever size you have to grow in. It doesn't, even like on the little containers behind you, you could put, like, there's some plants that even thrive and love that. They need bark or chips or, sawdust or something in the bottom to hold that moisture, to decrease the amount of water that you'll need. It can provide it for longer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when trying to build their first Hugelkultur bed or container?
First of all, no shade and no mistakes. Just keep going.
Yeah, keep going. But how
Yeah,
can we maybe save people from
yeah, totally.
other lessons learned?
Yeah, I would say the most common thing is just keep adding. Always keep adding. You can keep adding more layers. I think people have that mindset that it should just be a quick fix.
Oh, like a set it and forget it. Like I've built the Hugelkultur bed and now it's
No,
done.
no. You can totally set it and forget it, but just that it should happen in one weekend. So give yourself some
Got it.
grace there. Like pile up the branches in the wintertime when they're falling off the trees from a windstorm. And then in the spring, as you're going out and starting to weed again, pile those on. And then as the summer progresses and you've got all the kitchen scraps from your produce and the garden, pile those on. It doesn't have to just happen in one weekend. So give yourself some grace there that we're on like Mother Nature's time. This is a
Yeah.
seasonal approach, that it doesn't have to happen just in a week and that you've done your whole garden. And if you do, great. I mean, if you are going for it and you have all of the ingredients that you need to add in, by all means, do it quickly. But the approach is a slow approach. It's on the time scale of Mother Nature and decomposition. It doesn't have to happen in one day. So I would say the biggest thing is that people just add 2 layers and think they're done. I would say keep adding, keep adding, keep
Yeah,
adding.
so like I could view it as a compost pile and I could keep throwing my scraps into it if I wanted to, as long as they're going in the middle.
You can keep adding until the bed is filled or until you can't
Hmm.
reach it anymore, or until you're like, okay, I need a place to plant all these bulbs that I ordered and I need to finish this bed this weekend.
Right.
So keep building the bed as big or as efficiently as you can. Mother Nature is going to break it down and break it down and break it down, so keep adding. Just add another layer on top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you've planted like shrubs or trees, don't keep crowding the crown of the plant. Obviously, you don't want to encourage rot to themselves. But if, say, you're growing annuals in your raised bed, maybe you have like one of those troughs, or maybe you have like a cedar sided box or something like that. Fill it all up, plant your annuals for the year. You'll notice by the end of the year it's shrunk considerably. So add another layer of all those as you're cleaning up the garden for the season. Top it off with some leaves from the tree, let it rest over the winter and then plant it again. So you can keep adding those layers. If it's perennials, their leaves will naturally do that for themselves. They'll become the compost as the plant grows. Yeah,
Right. You
just
can
keep
kind of
adding.
chop and drop them. Yeah, I'm thinking because by the time I move, it'll be May and I live in South Florida. So our summer is your winter where like we don't really grow a lot in our summer. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if I set the bed up and let the summer heat really get it going, adding, building it, whatever. So then I plant in the fall, giving myself some time to really like let that bed get established and kind of let the heat do its thing.
That makes a ton of sense. I
Yeah.
imagine you're similar to us in where you have just free water falling from the sky. We are
Yes.
so lucky to have that. Not every
Yeah.
growing space has that, but the water really helps to settle things. It helps to start that decomposition process too. If you live in a super dry area or you live in a place without woody debris, this would need to be scaled to what is available to you. What are the growing
Totally.
conditions that you have? But this makes a ton of sense if you live, this is why it originated in Germany. They have a lot of forests. Where I live, there's a
Yeah.
lot of forests. And so like using that bioavailability to grow the
Yeah.
next generation of things. So if you have a lot of stuff that's coming in hurricane season that you can pile up and then start to, eliminate erosion or store water so that it's not causing damage in those rainy seasons, you're banking that water for the dry season, which is pretty cool strategy.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. So you're building these huge beds and you're putting those beds to work. You're a commercial flower farmer. You're growing tons and tons and tons on these beds. Are you adding fertilizer, organic fertilizer, or are you letting the bed's decomposition be the nutrients that are fueling your flowers every year? And as gardeners on the smaller scale, do we do the same as you, or might we have to do things differently?
I do not add additional fertilizers.
You don't. Wow.
I bank everything into it. I'm layering as much stuff as I possibly can into my beds and expecting that to be the nutrition for the plants. Then I'm choosing the plant for the location. So if I
Hmm.
have a ton of woody material that's really acidic, so cedar is very slow to decompose, and I have an abundance of cedars that has a lot of tannins and it has a lot of tannic acid, so it's a very acidic plant matter. So then I'm going to choose plants that love acidity, so azaleas, blueberries, things like that. If I have a lot of finished compost that I'm throwing on the bed, I know I can put nitrogen loving plants in that bed that year. I try to strategize and plan for right plant, right place. And so if it's a sunny side, I'm going to plant that plant that loves sun. If it's protected by wind, I'm going to plant those. So I think there's just some like trial and error that any gardener can do, whether you're a home gardener or a commercial gardener, of just learning which plants are going to thrive in my area, which plants do I like tending, and that fit the function for me, and then how can I build the environment to make those plants happy. So that's what I'm trying to do with the Hügelkultur is how am I making my plants happy so that they will continue to produce for a long time and I can harvest heavily to make my business sustainable.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm thinking too with this hugel culture because my soil is trash. It's all sand. Like my front yard is a freaking beach. It's crazy how much sand is in the soil in South Florida. But if you do hugel culture, you're basically building your own bed of like normal mineral rich soil that the rest of the world has. You know, it's almost like making a bed of compost. So that's also a really good solution. Just I'm just thinking out loud, but I'm like, this is a really good solution for me specifically, like for people living where they don't love their soil because you're making your own bed, but you're not having to buy bags and bags and bags and bags and bags of compost to build your bed out so that you can plant into it.
Exactly. And there is no normal, right? There's, I mean, amazing GIS maps that you can look at of different soil types across the globe. So there is every every imaginable combination of things. But if you have more sand or you have more clay, those are going to have, more specific plants that can grow in those conditions. The more loam and tilth you have, the wider variety of
Mhm.
plants you can grow. And so if you're trying to grow food and flowers and beautiful landscape, then you're going to want nutrition for all of those different needs. As people, we love to think that we can do it all and all the time. So if you want to do that, you got to bite off little chunks at a
Yeah.
time. You can't, it doesn't happen overnight. So small units of time, baby.
Yeah, small units of time.
If you build it, they will come. If you build up
Yeah.
those layers, the mycorrhizae are going to come, the decomposers are going to come, the little birds will come and drop the new seedlings. They really will, nature will fill in with so much abundance and beauty that is, I mean, the benefits of Hugelkultur are so far and away what I expected when I started growing that I wouldn't go back to traditional agriculture. It just does not make sense in my zone
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
recreate the wheel and come up with this system on my own when Mother Nature is like, here are all of my gifts.
Yeah.
Let me
Are
help you.
are you growing 12 months a year? What is your growing season?
Yeah, we are at 7B and we can grow a lot of stuff year round. So we have
Hmm.
evergreens and like I call them my sticky pokies, my twiggly bits right now.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of flowering branches. This morning I just dropped off camellia and viburnum and a bunch of dried flowers to the wholesaler. But there's so many things that we can grow. It just depends on the season. So it might
Hmm.
be reversed which hemisphere you're in or which part of the country you're in and how much water you get naturally versus how much you're wanting to give to it. But yeah, we grow year round and we have a retail flower shop. So we try to stock that with something all the time. It's not traditional, just like our growing. We don't have imported flowers. We don't have flowers out of season. We have what is naturally available to us with the season extension of the beds warm up sooner than conventional fields.
Right.
They don't freeze as soon. We're often the last to freeze compared to surrounding farms. And so we have some added benefits that we get. We love to honor the season and live in that. I like to think of just like, seasonal foods. I just cherish it while it's here and then I can eat and appreciate other foods and other flowers when they're in season too.
My gosh, I love that. I love you. This is so cool. One more question.
Yeah, and one thing I was gonna say is, if
Uh-huh.
you're at the beach, I moved here from Alaska. In that growing climate, we had so much seaweed that would wash up into our yard every day, every tide, and so we used a ton of seaweed that was available to us. I mean, you use what you have available to you, and so make sure that it's legal to harvest or that you're on
Hmm.
your own property. But use what you have available. So if you have a bunch of rabbit compost, throw that in. If you live next to a coffee roaster, get the coffee grounds.
Hmm.
Use what you have that you can glean from your friends and neighbors.
Yeah, that's so cool. If I'm in my growing season, or I guess when you're in your growing season year round, but when you're in your heavy growing season and your beds are filled with flowers and stuff like that, and you have your food scraps and your grass clippings from that week of mowing your lawn, how are you adding to the beds while they're fully growing? Are you keeping stuff to the side so that once the season dies back, then you're top dressing? Or like, how do you keep adding while there are plants in the beds?
Yeah. However works for you, that's going to be your best bet because it's your garden. But I have kind of a mixture of a couple things. So I'm always adding another bed. Our farm just keeps expanding. So there's like where I'm currently growing and then where the next bed is getting built and I can
So
pile the new stuff
you
into.
always have a place to put something. Okay.
Yes and no. Where we've grown at was a half-acre lot, just in our physical yard, our front yard, and then I filled up our backyard, and then I filled up that space. So I leased a spot from another farmer, and then I filled up that spot. So now we're at our current space. I don't intend to fill up because it's a lot of space for me and my crew to tend. We can leave some places wild and some places forested and some places as ponds. But yes, I am currently at the space where we are at. I'm currently continually building so that we can expand the farm. But I also have only so many hours in the day. And so I might not be able to pile it all up at the rate at which I need it to grow. And so I can, like, I have right now a staging area for all my logs. I have so many logs that I haven't gotten to pile in my rows yet, so I just pile them in a big heap. They're not decomposing, they're just in my way, and every day I'm like, okay, move one
Yeah.
log a day,
I see
and then
you.
it'll get done. Yeah, but you can totally stage it however you would like to. If you have help, or you have a truck, or you have friends that can come over, you can get a lot done with the help of others. If it's just you that you're relying on, make it into a manageable bite-sized chunk. It doesn't have to all happen in a day. Say you have your raised beds, you've filled them with Hügelkultur, and then they're all planted and all done. Great. Start a little compost off to the side and you can use that as your top dressing when the season is over. If you have the desire to grow more, then ask your neighbor.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's so cool. Tell me more about SUOT, Small Units of Time Flower Farm. So, what do you grow? How much are you growing? How large is your team? How has it evolved?
Sure. We started in 2016, so this is our 10th year of growing and selling, and it's just changed and evolved a lot over the years. We have quite a different setup now that we did at the beginning. So little bit by little bit. Right now, our retail flower shop is open every Friday to the public. That's when our CSA customers come. We have all of our bouquets available for the weekend, for entertaining or whatever you'd like gifting. We have our farm on site that we just moved to this last year, so we are setting that up and moving all the crops slowly over from our other growing locations. We hope to have it available to the public soon and to host classes and workshops and like have you here to do a
Cool.
workshop. Here's how we physically build it. Okay, help pile the sticks. Okay, here's the leaves. We've done that in the past, and it's just really fun and really cool to actually see.
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, I see
Yeah.
what you're talking about. In the PDF I can share, there's some visuals of what it looks like, but
Yes,
it's fun
please.
to see.
We can
Yeah,
link it in the show notes. Yeah.
it's
Because I'm like,
totally
I
fun
want that
to
PDF.
see.
Send that PDF to me
Yeah,
personally. But I
absolutely.
think a lot of people would want it. Yeah.
What we're growing right now, we have a ton of tulips and daffodils that are coming up. I just checked yesterday, and some of them are starting to flower. We do a lot of woodies, grasses, vines. I do dahlias. I mean, there's something growing every season. We have a lot of peonies. My favorite are just like unusual foliages, evergreen foliages or variegated things. I try to find stuff that's kind of unusual or striking, and so people are like, "What is that?" I want people to notice our bouquets and say, "I want to find out more about that thing." And I think the intrigue is what makes people be surprised and delighted with nature. If it's something, of course, the nostalgia of sweet peas or sunflowers are going to tug on some people's heartstrings, but I want something unusual to keep reminding people that there's more to learn with nature. There's just so much beauty and abundance that like you can never stop learning. Keep staying engaged and getting your hands dirty.
You can literally never stop learning. It's the best part of this hobby is like you
Yes.
will be, 95 and still there's still a new plant you can grow or a new growing method or a new bed style you can grow. So we will absolutely link everything in the show notes, including the PDF, but also can you just tell us where everyone can find you on socials and your website?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is suotfarmandflowers.com. and then you
SUO. Hmm.
SUOT, small units of time.
Hmm.
And on Instagram and on Facebook / SWOT Farm. Yeah, we've got a great crew that subscribe to our email newsletter, so please join us on that. I send out growing tips when we're doing specials on things, when you can sign up for our subscription. We have all kinds of cool things that are coming out. I do a lot of classes and workshops at our flower shop, so you're welcome to join us for one of those.
I wish I lived closer. I want to be on your CSA. That sounds like a dream to get seasonal flowers every week that are like perfectly in season. Oh my gosh.
It's fun to watch and see the change of what's coming into bloom each week
Yeah.
too. It's like this. It's like a symphony. You're watching,
Yes,
each plant or crop have its solo and just really shine, come
totally.
into its own. And then the combination and play of different things and the colors or the textures is just really really fun to see. We have great feedback from our customers that they just love the diversity of it. It's not a traditional grocery store bouquet, and I'm like, yes, good. I want to
Good,
surprise and
good.
delight.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
totally.
I want it to
Totally.
be something different and unique that you can't get just
Yeah.
out of a factory. It's out of the earth, which is the
Yeah.
good
So
relationship.
much cooler. So much cooler. All right. Well, thank you so much for all of your expertise. I think a lot of people are going to be trying Hugelkultur this year after listening to this.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
Yeah,
delight
my
to meet you and to talk with you.
you too.
Growing joy.